There are moments in Scripture that feel like lightning, brief, bright, and impossible to ignore. One of them took place in the upper room, on the night before the cross, when time itself seemed to pause, and heaven leaned close. The disciples were trembling, their world about to collapse. They didn't yet understand that the Lamb was about to be slain, that prophecy was about to split history in two. And then, in the stillness of that moment, Jesus spoke a single sentence that carried the weight of eternity. "I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also." For centuries, theologians have studied those words, comforted mourners with them, whispered them in hospital rooms and graveyards. But few have grasped the magnitude of what Jesus was truly revealing. This wasn't merely consolation, it was revelation. It wasn't only a promise for the grieving heart, it was a coded declaration of the rapture, spoken long before the Apostle Paul ever wrote about the catching up of the saints. In that single verse, Jesus unlocked the entire prophetic timeline: his departure, his preparation, his return, and the reunion of heaven and earth in one breathtaking sequence. Everything else, the wars, the signs, the shaking of nations, are pieces of a much larger story that leads back to that promise. That night, when the candles flickered against the walls and fear filled the air, Jesus was writing the future of his bride. He was revealing the key that would one day awaken a generation standing at the edge of fulfillment, our generation. The rapture is not an invention of man, nor an escape from suffering. It is the completion of a vow made by the bridegroom to his beloved. One verse, one promise, one key. The question is, will we be ready when it turns? 1. The night of promise, where the key was spoken. The air in the upper room was heavy with confusion and sorrow. The disciples didn't yet grasp what was unfolding, that the one who calmed storms and raised the dead was about to walk into the greatest storm of all. Shadows flickered on the walls as Jesus spoke, his voice steady, his eyes burning with eternal purpose. They were expecting instructions for war or escape, but instead, he gave them a promise, a key, a prophecy hidden within tenderness. "I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself." John 14:2-3. These were not just words of comfort to ease their fear. They were words that opened heaven's blueprint for the end of the age. Jesus wasn't only preparing them for his departure, he was unveiling the divine plan of his return. That single sentence carried within it the sequence of eternity: departure, preparation, return, reunion. The disciples couldn't see it yet, but that night, prophecy was spoken in its purest form. He was telling them, and us, that his absence was temporary, that one day he would come again, not as a suffering servant, but as the bridegroom reclaiming his bride. The beauty of this moment lies in its intimacy. This wasn't a public sermon or a parable for the crowds. It was a private revelation, whispered to those who had walked with him, who had left everything for him. The same Jesus who washed their feet that night was promising to one day lift them from the dust of the earth and carry them into glory. The key was spoken in love and hidden in plain sight for those willing to listen. 2. I will come again, the promise that divides time. Those 4 words, "I will come again," are among the most powerful ever spoken by Jesus. They pierce through centuries of doubt, persecution, and silence. In them rests the heartbeat of heaven and the hope of every believer who has ever looked toward the sky in longing. This wasn't poetic language or metaphor. It was a literal declaration from the lips of the Son of God. He would return for his people. But there's something deeper here. When Jesus said those words, he wasn't talking about his resurrection or his public return at the end of the tribulation. He was describing a personal, private moment, an intimate return for his bride. Just as a Jewish bridegroom would leave his bride to prepare a home, then return suddenly to take her with him, Jesus was speaking of that same sacred pattern. The ancient wedding custom was not just tradition, it was prophecy. In Jewish culture, the bride never knew the exact hour of her bridegroom's return. She had to stay ready, clothed, and waiting. When the call went out in the night, "Behold, the bridegroom comes," she had no time to prepare. Her preparation had to already be complete. Jesus used that imagery intentionally. "I will come again wasn't a vague comfort, it was a coded assurance. He was telling his followers, stay ready, stay pure, keep your lamps burning. His return would come like a whisper in the night, for those who are watching and waiting. Every generation since that night has lived under the weight of that promise. And now, as the world trembles and the signs converge, those 4 words echo louder than ever. He will come again, not someday, but soon. 3. Receive you to myself. The moment heaven opens, there's a tenderness hidden in those words. Receive you to myself. It's not the language of a ruler issuing orders or a judge calling the condemned. It's the language of love. The phrase doesn't point to wrath or distance. It reveals intimacy, the moment when heaven reaches down and embraces those who belong to Christ. This is the heartbeat of the rapture, not escape, but union. When Paul wrote in 1 Thessalonians 4:17, then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. He was echoing the promise Jesus made that night. The rapture isn't an invention of the early church. It's the fulfillment of a vow made by the bridegroom himself. Receive you to myself means more than relocation. It means restoration. The separation between heaven and earth, between creator and creation, ends in that instant. Imagine it in a single breath. Mortality will be swallowed by life. Every pain, every tear, every unanswered question will dissolve in the light of his presence. The same hands that were pierced on the cross will now reach to lift his people home. That's what the rapture truly is, the moment love crosses eternity to gather its own. This isn't a doctrine to debate. It's a promise to anchor your life in. When Jesus said, receive you to myself, he was speaking of personal relationship, not religious ritual. It's the culmination of every prayer, every act of faith, every moment you chose him in secret. That moment will come suddenly, quietly for the world, but thunderous for heaven. One heartbeat on earth, the next in his presence. 4. That where I am, there you may be also. The heart of eternity. When Jesus spoke those words, he revealed the true purpose behind every prophecy, every promise, and every act of redemption: to be with us. The rapture isn't just about leaving earth. It's about arriving where he is. Every miracle, every parable, every drop of blood shed on the cross was leading to this one destination: union. That where I am, not merely where I'll take you. It's not about a place. It's about a person. Heaven is heaven because Jesus is there. This single phrase unravels the mystery of eternity. The goal of salvation isn't escape from suffering, but closeness to Christ. The rapture isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of forever. Just as the bridegroom in ancient Jewish tradition would build a room onto his father's house for his bride, Jesus promised that same preparation. In my Father's house are many rooms. I go to prepare a place for you. John 14:2. That place isn't a palace built of gold and light. It's a dwelling in his presence, where time no longer separates and sin no longer divides. In that moment, every longing will find its home. The ache of distance will be healed. The presence we've only felt in prayer will become sight, sound, and touch. Jesus' words here are the culmination of love, not a destination, but a reunion. The rapture isn't merely about rescue from wrath. It's about the restoration of relationship. The story began with separation in Eden, but it will end with perfect union in heaven. That where I am, there you may be also. That's not theology, that's a promise written in eternity's ink. And it's closer now than we think. 5. The hidden sequence. The blueprint of the rapture in one verse. Every word Jesus spoke that night carried divine precision. John 14:3 isn't just a comfort verse, it's a blueprint. Within it lies the full sequence of the rapture. The promise, I will come again. The action, receive you to myself. And the destination, that where I am, there you may be also. It's the spiritual timeline of the bride's journey, spoken long before Revelation, hidden in plain sight for those who would one day search the scriptures with open hearts. Jesus was revealing not just a moment, but a divine pattern. First, he departs to prepare. Then, he returns for his bride. Finally, he unites heaven and earth. in eternal fellowship. This is the rhythm of redemption, separation, preparation, restoration. The rapture is not random. It follows this ancient, divine order. It is love completing its circle. When Paul described the mystery in 1 Corinthians 15, "We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye," he wasn't revealing something new. He was unlocking what Jesus had already spoken. The key was there all along, concealed in a single verse that only the Spirit could illuminate at the appointed time. And now, that time has come. The signs Jesus outlined have aligned. The world is trembling. The bride is awakening. The final piece of the prophecy is falling into place. John 14:3 isn't a distant promise anymore, it's a countdown. This is the last echo of his vow, the assurance that he will come again. The door of heaven stands ready to open, and the call will soon ring out across the universe. Behold, the bridegroom comes. Conclusion. The verse that unlocks eternity. It's almost breathtaking to realize that one verse, spoken in a quiet upper room 2,000 years ago, holds the key to the greatest mystery of all time. "I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also." John 14:3. These words are not symbolic poetry or vague comfort. They are the promise that has sustained believers for generations, the vow of the bridegroom to his waiting bride. Every prophecy, every sign, every unfolding moment in our world is leading back to this verse. The world trembles, the heavens groan, and yet this promise still burns like a flame that cannot be extinguished. When Jesus spoke those words, he wasn't describing a faraway dream, he was sealing a covenant. He was telling us that the story doesn't end with the cross or the tomb. It ends with reunion with the church lifted from a collapsing world into the everlasting presence of her King. The rapture isn't fiction, and it isn't fantasy. It's love fulfilling its final chapter. In one moment, the sky will split, the trumpet will sound, and every heart truly belonging to him will rise. The promise made in that verse will become sight. This is why we watch. This is why we endure. Because the same voice that spoke to trembling disciples now speaks to us across the ages. "I will come again." That's not a warning, it's an invitation. A whisper from eternity calling your name. The countdown isn't just cosmic, it's personal. The question that remains is not if he's coming, but when he does. Will you be ready to be received?